But there was a battle for third as well in the race, a podium fight, pretty much between the two second drivers at the moment, Bottas in the Mercedes, Perez in the Red Bull. And it was firstly affected by this bizarre moment for Valtteri on Friday in second practice. Comes out of the pit lane, accelerates away, and whoop. Very embarrassing moment, this one, for Valtteri. Spins it round in the pit lane. Never seen it before like that. Really strange one. Very embarrassing one for Bottas as well. The McLaren mechanics having to push him back. And he sort of laughed it off on the radio. But the FIA didn't take it too lightheartedly. They looked at this, investigated it, and he was given a 3-place grid penalty, which I think is pretty understandable, really, for a mistake that could have been quite dangerous. To lose it in the pit lane, you've got an 80 kph speed limit, is there because the pit lane's a dangerous place. Look at all these people that are out there working. Mechanics, you've got TV personnel, you've got stewarding officials, marshals as well, and they're right up. Even on the inside of the pit wall there, you can see marshals and the McLaren team protected by nothing really, but a slight lower step. So Bottas comes out, and what he said to the stewards was that he started in second gear because they've been having some problems in the pit stops recently with some wheel spin. So they tried to do something different, and you can see here he's in second gear, Valtteri. So it checks out his reasoning, but it's not the absolute answer to what happened here, I don't think. He's in second gear, and you do use second gear from race starts from time to time. We see it in the wet when it's very slippery and you get a load of wheel spin. If you start in second gear, you should actually reduce the wheel spin. And that's what Mercedes are trying to do. But when Valtteri goes, he basically just keeps the foot in, and he's trying to large it at this point. He's sideways already, and because he's got to turn left and then right, the car's fishtailing both ways, and he's just kept his foot in. He wouldn't have lost control if he'd just blended out of the throttle a little bit. It's a rear-wheel drive car that would just stop the rear wheel spinning up, and he can catch it, and a driver of his quality would be absolutely fine to do that. I still think he never thought, whilst he was doing a bit of showboating coming out of the pits, he never thought, even from this point, that it would go all the way round. But it does. We got Zach Brown looking on from the pit wall there, right on the edge, looking over to see what's happening. We got all these McLaren mechanics that are out in the pit lane as well. And Bottas is absolutely out of control here when it goes. And luckily, it comes to rest still in the fast lane pretty much. Could have gone pretty badly wrong. And 3-place grid penalty, I think, is pretty hard to argue against.
Yeah, Michael, that's absolutely ridiculous.
Agree.
Literally, we could have taken our guys out there on the pit wall.
Agree. Thank you.
This is part of the reason, though, that they were doing something different, was the crucial pit stop phase of Hamilton and Verstappen in France. And now just this is when Hamilton basically lost the lead, maybe lost the win. Gets so much wheel spin coming out of the garage on the same hard tyres as Bottas spun with in first gear. So Hamilton's in first gear, and that's why Mercedes trying to do something a little bit different, going into second gear. And Bottas, if you catch wheel spin in a higher gear, you're going at a higher speed, and it's actually harder to control. If you have wheel spin in first gear, no big dramas. The cars are slower. You can catch it. Bottas may be surprised in second gear that the wheel spin just goes further because the speeds are higher and it becomes harder to control. But again, I can see why Mercedes were trying to do that. Absolutely no excuse for spinning the car into a live pit lane. The only other time I've seen this was back in 2011, Virgin Racing, Jerome D'Ambrosio, and this is in the Grand Prix, a real blooper from him. But a very different scenario. Slick tyres, wet pit lane, very slippery. And as he's coming through, he just drops a wheel onto the painted apron there, and it's super slippery, and D'Ambrosio is heading for a pretty embarrassing spin himself. But he also nearly wipes out the team, pretty dangerous. But this is in a Grand Prix. It's a poor error, but it's just I think it's an innocent error as well. Sometimes he's just been caught out by a real lack of grip there, and spun it on the way into the box in a way that he never would have wanted to do. Bottas obviously wouldn't have wanted to have his spin either. He's also low grip. He's on a new hard tyre. But for me, it comes more from a sort of showboating style of just enlarge it coming out of the pits, flick it left, flick it right, and he's overcooked it. For me, it's a little bit more akin to what we sometimes saw from Daniel Ricciardo. This is in China in his final year with the Red Bull team. and the mechanics fix his car and he goes back out and gives it a bit of a slide as he goes out. Just a bit of fun for Ricciardo. He didn't lose control. That's the crucial thing. And I think Bottas was kind of on a similar tangent, sliding it. Looks cool if you pull it off, but pit lane is not the time to do that really. And particularly if you spin the car, it looks pretty stupid and it can be dangerous. So 3-place grid penalty for Bottas. But again, Leclerc managed to recover from his poor start. Bottas had a poor start because he had a grid penalty, recovered to come back through for a podium. Good drive from Valtteri. A crucial moment in the race for third was the start of the Grand Prix. We got Perez here, we're riding on board with Norris in third then, inherited that position because Bottas had his grid drop. And now this is important. Perez goes through on the inside, but again, Norris just flings it off wide and takes the place back. But we saw in Baku on Valtteri Bottas' safety car restart, when the cars are all bunched up together, sometimes the outside channel is the best one. Everyone defends the inside, but if you can go on the outside, you can go deeper on the brakes and you've got a nice space to attack. And that's what Perez tries to do here. He's got the option here to go inside or outside of Norris. I have to say, neither way is particularly clear because Lando's right in the middle of the road and the road's arcing to the left. But he goes to the left, and this is super, super tight for Perez as well, right up, almost to the grass as he comes past Norris. But whilst Norris here is bunched up behind Hamilton up to turn 3, can't go that deep on the brakes, and he's got a bit of dirty air there as well. Perez can fully take advantage of that. Look, he almost gets alongside Hamilton as well, so there's no chance that Norris can defend against him. But then Lando does exactly the same back to Sergio here. If you look, there's a moment where Perez just wants to cover the outside again, but it's too late basically, and he has to jink back to the right. Otherwise, he's probably going to run into Lando, and that gives Lando a slight fright, but then ultimately the outside line, and it's exactly the same thing that he moves back onto to Checo here. Perez on the inside, nowhere to go behind Lewis Hamilton, who's ahead, and Norris on the outside line, nice clear road ahead, can use that braking advantage, and he comes back through. Now that's important because Perez now in fourth behind Norris and Bottas both lost a lot of ground to Verstappen and Hamilton ahead. It basically decided that it was going to be a 2-horse race for the front and a 2-horse race for third because Norris was never really going to have the pace to hold on. But he did well for the opening laps to drop Perez and Bottas away from the top two. And it was the slow pit stop that cost Perez that podium place, undoubtedly. But if he had made it past, if he had made this move stick on Norris, he probably would have had a good buffer to Bottas anyway, and the pit stop wouldn't be what we're talking about for his podium loss, really. So big move from Norris, just to hold Perez back and keep him in that fight with Bottas. Bottas in the end, great drive, really good on his tyres at the end of the Grand Prix, managed to keep it charging Perez at bay, maybe one more lap and it might have been different. But from having a bit of a blooper on a Friday, seeing the wrath of the stewards, he recovered well to get a podium and some good points for Mercedes on a day where they had definitely the inferior car to Red Bull. So that was a look into one of the more bizarre incidents of Formula One this season, and maybe of all time, from Valtteri Bottas there. But there was action through the Grand Prix as well. Charles Leclerc coming to blows and then producing a fine recovery drive and a battle for the podium, which Bottas was involved in as well. For more on that, check it out on F1 TV.